This is Tech Addicts. This week we're talking about the Google Pixel 7, 7 Pro and tablet. There's a new 2-in-1 robot vacuum cleaner from Xiaomi. The OnePlus Nord Watch looks awesome. The Amazfit Falcon looks awesome too. And who's more evil, Spotify or Google? Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts Podcast. I am Gareth Miles, the host of the Tech Addicts Podcast. And this is Ted Salmon, the co-host of the Tech Addicts Podcast.
It made me sound very boring and you very exciting. I am Ted Salmon, I am the co-host. That's much better, isn't it?
It is, yeah, that's lively and exciting.
Hopefully I might get through this week's recording without ditching out before Hark Back. I have continued to improve for anyone that has sent me well wishes, and I am beginning to feel more human. However, I still do have lingering symptoms of blasted COVID. Thank you, China. We'll see how we get on.
It's not exclusively their fault.
It's not what you told me off air. You even had the bloke's name.
Fauci? Yeah, he's an American.
Yeah.
Where's Alan when you need him? Sorry, folks. Just playing.
Talking of which,
conspiracy theories are fun.
Talking of which, we had a podcast from the middle of the week last week called Projector Room, where we talk with Alan Gilday about film, cinema and TV, and it's jolly good fun. So if you don't know what that's about, links in the show notes or tedsalmon.com, where you'll find everything. Come and listen to our podcast.
Yes, there you go.
It's the closest you get to an advert in this podcast, isn't it?
I suppose, yeah. It's not a bad idea to push our other stuff at the top of the show.
Yeah.
It would be great if we could remember to do that.
Yes. Brain in gear. Must put brain in gear.
Ted's also available on the phone show and Whatever Works. I am also available round the back of the pub if you need any heroin. No, I'm joking. Oh, God, Spotify's going to slay me for that because it goes on. Yeah. I've said the H word. Oh, grief. All right, well.
Spotify have acquired a company. We'll come to that later.
Yeah, we will. Certainly.
Blasted Spotify. Yeah. Hey, guess what?
Spotify.
Guess what? We've got no feedback. The community has been very quiet, and they haven't given us any feedback to chew over. Very, very selfish of you all.
I did notice there was a large amount of messages, because I was starting to get a bit annoyed every time someone messaged in the chat. I got a notification to say someone's messaged in the chat.
That chat area of our MeWe group, link in the show notes, link at tedsalmon.com. That area of chat seems to have taken off recently. People have started using it, and I'm not quite sure what kicked that off, but that's fine. It's a nice bit of chat that goes on in there, and people being chummy with each other, which is great.
Ah, yeah, brilliant. That's what we like. Chums. Friends.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll move into the hardline for the hardware and start doing a podcast instead of forcing people
talking crap.
Pay attention to our personalities.
Yes. Oh no, weather. We haven't done a weather.
Oh, flip. Yeah, sorry.
The weather here is kind of coldish with grey sky and quite boring. It's going to be windy later today. You?
Grey, a wee bit of rain and some wind as well. I did have a curry last night. Outside, it's... Well, actually, I did notice words that would probably scratch your cockles. Arctic blast is coming.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That'd be interesting.
That's worrying.
The beast from the east.
The folks, well, I think it's...
Well, that's the north, isn't it?
Arctic is up north, yes. East is kind of over toward, Russia and things like that.
Oslo.
And Oslo as well. But... there was a point I was going to make that's completely gone out of my head.
It's probably a reflection of how important it was. Stop waffling. Get on with Hardline for the hardware. On.
Google announced the Pixel 7 and the Pixel 7 Pro and their Pixel Watch. They also gave us a bit of a hint about the upcoming Pixel tablet as well.
I fancy the tablet. And the
you.
tablet is the best news of all of this, I think. I like that thingy that you kind of slap it on, and it becomes a kind of thing that you have around the house rather than something that you kind of take to work and take to the pub and take to the cinema. It's like a little hub thingy. I think of all the news that came out in the week of all these phones. The Pixel 7 and 7 Pro, kind of, slight upgrades, bit boring really, over the 6 series. The watch, which sounds crap because it's got a crappy battery. But the tablet, I think, I've got eyes for that. But we can't get it yet, of course.
No. And what, dear folks, Ted was referring to as, well, twice thing, and then he was more expansive by referring to it again in better terms as a thingy, is in fact a docking station. And it turns it into essentially a Nest hub, which is strange because most Nest hubs are running Fuchsia, whereas this is going to be an Android tablet,
right? Or
is it?
I
wonder if whenever you connect it up, does it just suddenly jump into a Fuchsia mode? Is it dual booting or something, or that kind of caper?
Well, the screen that they're showing it with in the publicity stuff makes it look like Android, and it's on the dock then. So,
does it look like Android?
Well, it does. The clock is very Android that I'm looking at now, and where the icons are, and the bar at the bottom, and where the battery state is. That's all very kind of Android ish. But
it also looks like my hub that I have in the kitchen, which has the wee line down there, and it runs Fuchsia. Poorly, it runs Fuchsia.
Okay, which goes to prove what crap I talk.
No, I think they're just they're trying to sort of muddy the water so you don't know what's on there until you actually delve into the settings to find out what it's running. But it would be nice that whenever it clicks into dock mode that it does kick over into Fuchsia, but it still has some kind of tie-in with your Android apps, which I suppose Fuchsia does anyway.
And it's got a speaker. The hub thingy that is a thing or a thingy, it's got a speaker in it, which means I'm even more excited about that. I love things with speakers, particularly if they're really good speakers. And that, you put it on there.
The Conservative Party has a speaker. She's not a particularly good sorry, just kidding.
Enough. But I wonder if you could buy multiple docks for it. So you got one by your bed, one in the kitchen for your cooking, one in the lounge, one in the dining room, or whether they're not going to sell them separately. Be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, it does. Are they going to be like £100 per dock? You get the first one free, and then it's a sort of middling tablet that you connect to it, and then later on, if they completely abandoned it after you've bought 3 or 4 of these docks to have around the house, are you going to be left with these docks that nothing else goes on? And especially if the tablet is no longer fit for purpose in a couple of years' time. Are you scuppered? Or they bring along the Pixel Tablet 2 next year, or 2 years, 3 years from now, and it has a new connection method, a bit like they had with let's go back to the Nexus 7, and then they brought along the Nexus 7 the next year, and it didn't fit in with that expensive stand thing that I stupidly purchased for it and used maybe twice.
Yeah. But you don't need to worry about that, because after the second generation of this, Google will abandon it anyway. As we well know, they'll throw this out there, let some other OEM get the idea and run with it, and they'll just ditch it, as they do with their most.
I don't know. I did see a report this morning that said that Google is looking to double their sales this year. And I have to say, when we come to the bargain basement, the Pixel 7 prices are very competitive to try and get people to really move into that ecosystem. They're giving quite a lot of money back, but we'll analyse that later on. Yeah. Anyway, what can we learn about the new Pixel 7 and Pixel 7 Pro? What's different?
The 5x zoom, the super res zoom going into both devices, which seems to be the thrill for people like Steve Litchfield. The redesign, the metallic strip across the back.
It is very nice.
The Tensor G2 chip, of course, which is just a kind of evolution of the first one. it just feels like it's all very very incremental. They made a big song and dance about the way in which the middle of the sensor on the camera can pull the centre bit out and make it sharper, and so you'll get even better pictures from not such good hardware. So previously, where you had these like 50 times zooms that were crap on devices like Huawei phones, they were just rubbish once you started zooming out. Well, Google are claiming that they can do this properly now, and they're saying as far as 30 times zoom, and you shouldn't see any degradation of the photos. So as usual with Google, it's all about cameras on their phones. The Pixel 7, I think, looks nice because they made it smaller, 6.3 inch, instead of 6.4. I think it was on the 6, the baby 6. And I think that's a nicer size, come down a bit. That's great. But it's just, I think most of it's just evolutionary. Anything that you saw to be excited about?
Well, I like the idea that all the cameras on the phone, not just the reserved for the ones at the back, they're all going to be doing 4K at 60 frames per second.
Yeah.
Because the selfie producer will love that, or the vlogger, the TikTok user, that sort of thing, will love being able to get the higher quality out of the front-facing camera. That's a big thing. It's going to have the variable refresh rate between 120 hertz and 90 hertz, which
whoopee-doo.
I think that's on the Pixel 7 Pro, but the Pixel 7 is going to top out at 90 hertz. It's not going to be 120 hertz.
Very, very exciting, that is.
Well, it's going to annoy a few people. There's a 256 gigabyte version and a 512 gigabyte version.
512. That's a feature. I'll give you that.
All right, thank you.
The price is good as well. To be fair, of the 7, not the 7 Pro, but putting it out there at $599, I think that's a really good price.
It is, and we will come back to the price later on.
Oh, sorry.
Because it's good and will get gooder, much gooder.
I'm a bit disappointed about the watch though, because I really was on board with that, and I thought, this looks good. I like this. And then I learned that the battery's crap, and it's got whacking great big bezels, and I thought this could be on my way back into wearing a watch, as I mentioned on this very show before, but I'm just now underwhelmed with the whole thing. And why is that upside down? Oh, I see, it can go up. Somebody's wearing it with the crown on the left, on their right hand.
They do that at tech shows and things like that because they'll be showing it to other people as opposed to using it themselves, and you have to turn your arm in an awkward way to do it. I remember seeing Sony doing that with one of their smartwatches. It's like, why are you wearing it on the wrong hand? They just said it's easier for me to show it to you like that.
Okay. But anyway, I guess that it will just turn upside down as to whichever wrist it's on. But the whole kind of integration looks really good. So it's a Google user's dream, isn't it? It just does all the Google stuff. So it looks interesting in that respect. But I don't want to be charging my watch every bloody day. I think if I'm going to have a watch, well, we'll come to a watch later on, which does 30 days between charges.
Yes. And when you compare the two of them together, there is no way in the world a Pixel Watch will ever be on my arm because it's far too dainty, and it would last 6, maybe 7 minutes.
Yeah. This is not
my rough and tumble lifestyle.
Yeah, it's not a builder's watch.
No,
not
that I'm a builder. But...
Not a plasterer's watch. My
arse looks like it though. Anyway, moving on from pixely stuff, it's all very nice. I'm quite excited about the Pixel 7 Pro. I think it looks like a really good phone, and hopefully it'll come out of the gate without all the issues that the Pixel 6 Pro had that kind of destroyed its welcoming parade.
Yeah.
So moving on, the Xiaomi have a 2-in-1 vacuum robot.
Yeah.
Not only does it suck the dust out of your carpet, that's a different product altogether. It washes and dries your carpet too. That's great for a small little round thing, puck type thing that flows around the ground. Ted?
It looks absolutely brilliant. Mind you, it should do for 900 quid. It's virtually maintenance free. All you've got to do is fill up the reservoir on the back with water when it gets low, and that's it. It looks after itself. It cleans all the stuff itself. I don't know how it gets rid of the crap it picks up. I didn't get that far into it, but it does all this heat cleaning of its own brushes. It finds its way back to where it's supposed to be docked when it's not in use. It goes off and does its thing. It really is a very, very clever robot. The quote that they're likening it to the Roomba one, which I think we've spoken about on the show before, and it's just very, very clever how that they've got all this software clearly inside to make this virtually user free from intervention. Just put it in the corner and never vacuum again. Love it.
It is, aside from if you live in a house with multiple floors, in which case you have to buy one for every floor.
I suppose so. Or get a dumbbell.
Sorry?
Or get a dumbbell.
A dumbbell?
A waiter thingy, what are those things?
Oh, a dumbwaiter.
Dumbwaiter bell thingy that you go up and down, yes.
Dumbbells, what people lift in,
that's right.
gyms, aren't they?
What's a gym?
Yeah. He's a bloke down in the corner selling off knockoff versions of these. I do like it, and I love the fact that it's got a docking station that it goes back to and it replenishes the supplies. It's quite small, and I do wonder how long between you having to change the stuff out of the docking station. It doesn't seem to show that, but then it's going to be different for everyone's house. It depends on how dirty your carpets are.
Yeah. It's not very clear about how you get the filth out of it. Or are they...
Well, it does that in the docking station, so I imagine that it puts it back into reservoirs that are inside the docking station. And if you look at the pictures of the docking station, there is what looks like some sort of clippy button thing that might be a drawer that you pull out, and then you go away and empty that out. One side will have dust on it, the other side will have water, dirty water, and then you refill the water and then push it back in again.
Yeah. As usual, we haven't done our homework properly on this. But
I have. I've watched the video.
What happens to the filth then? I don't understand what
you empty it.
Well, no, because they one of the points they made about this thing was that you sit it in the corner, and all you've got to do is make sure the water's filled up. It does everything else.
But you have to empty the dirty water out of it in order to put the clean water into it.
That wasn't made very clear. But anyway,
unless of course it does have some form of magic that manages to dispose entirely of the protons, neutrons, and electrons that make up the water and zaps them from existence.
It sprays acid on all your filth, and it dissolves.
But then you've got to have to top up the acid at some stage.
Anyway, 900 quid. Good for Xiaomi, though. I like what Xiaomi do. It's good stuff, isn't it?
Yes, and I'm really hoping that this is a quality piece of hardware, a bit like their screwdrivers.
Yeah, they're lovely. I've got a set of those.
Yeah, imagine they probably made this with those screwdrivers. It must be good.
Yes.
All right, Redmi are doing a pad. I think we've covered this a number of times in its before launch, but now they're announcing there's going to be a release date on AliExpress of October the 15th. For the 10.6 mid-range tablet, which has a 2.2 octa-core MediaTek Helio G99 processor with either 3 gigabytes of RAM and 64 gigabytes of storage, 4 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage, or 6 gigabytes of RAM with 128 gigabytes of storage. 128 gigabytes of storage seems to be your max. It's DDR4 RAM, so it should be decently fast, and you can put in a SD card up to 1 terabyte.
Whoa.
It has 90 hertz of a refresh rate and a brightness of 400 nits. There's also a 105-degree 8-megapixel camera, because everybody loves their camera on their tablet. So pointing out the features is really going to get people excited. There's an 8,000 milliamp hour battery, which can last up to 21 hours. which is quite impressive, I have to say. And I think that I have noticed over the last wee while that tablets are forgettably good whenever it comes to battery life. I've been using my Lenovo as a security monitor during the day to see whenever the Royal Mailman arrives or courier arrives. I've just been able to leave it on, the whole screen, for most of the day, most of the working day, and monitoring that security camera. And I walk away at the end of it and it's down maybe 20%.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Very good indeed. It's what
but the price is... Sorry.
I think it's when you put it under load that the battery... what I've noticed about these things is, for example, if you've got 45 Play Store apps to update, that kills the battery doing all that processing, and you feel the back of the thing and it's warm. So probably just sitting looking at a monitor, it's not really under any pressure apart from lighting up the screen. Is this an OLED or is it an LCD?
I think it's an LCD.
That's a shame, isn't it?
It is, but it was a £200 tablet, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Do you hear me complain? Any complaints?
No. Bluetooth 5.3? That's good. I like that.
It is, yes.
It's
only Wi-Fi 5, mind you. That's a bit bad.
Could
have been 6.
Wi-Fi 5, not even 6, let alone 6E.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a USB Type-C port. The prices are actually very competitive. Prices will be, the 3GB version will be $200. The 4GB version will be $230. And then $260 for that bigger 6GB version, which is a bit of a steal. And I reckon that those prices will probably be discounted quite soon after launch.
I like the design of it as well. I like the kind of whole... it's kind of Apple-y, isn't it? To be fair, it looks a bit like the edges of the Nothing Phone 1, which I have in for review here, and they've tried to make it kind of squarey, boxy, and they've done that with the Sony Xperia 5 as well this year. Everything's gone to this kind of boxy design, but yeah,
it's nice.
It looks nice. I like it. Give us a 7.5 or 8-inch version, though, please, Redmi. The only thing you've got to be okay with, I suppose, is the Redmi Xiaomi software, which I guess is going to be MIUI, is it? And that's going to be sitting... Oh no, don't Redmi have their own version of MIUI?
No, it is. It's MIUI 13 for Pad.
Oh yeah, for Pad, that's it. So you've got to be okay with that. I don't particularly like that. I find it quite annoying in lots of ways. But on a tablet, it'll be different, I suppose.
Is Nova still a thing?
Nova
Launcher.
Yeah. You can put Nova Launcher on it. Yeah, no problem. But and on a as I say, on a tablet it's different. On a phone, I get annoyed with the things it won't do. Like, for example, it mucks about with always-on displays, and you can't, whatever Nova you put on it or anything else, you can't fix that. That's what you get. You've got to install always-on AMOLED or something. But at least with Android, you can get round it.
Yes.
No further comment.
It doesn't vacuum the floor or wash the carpets, though, which would be nice. Anyway, Google, back to Google, because we haven't talked about them for at least 5 minutes. Google has announced a second-gen Nest doorbell, and this is a wired version as well. And it's a wee bit smaller than the one before. It costs $179. And Ted, if you have anything else to add, do it now, because I'm about to move on.
No, there's nothing to add with this. The news here is that apparently it's wired for power, and so instead of only having the ability to turn on when it senses movement or anything, like your tablet you just spoke about, you should leave it on, and it can monitor all the time, so you can see blades of grass swaying in the wind for 24 hours a day, because we know how important that is.
I can do that with my doorbell, and I haven't wired it in.
Don't the batteries run out?
Until the battery runs out, yeah, but that takes about 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, what they're saying about this one is that you don't have to think about batteries. That's it. Move on.
Great. Wow. $179 plus a monthly subscription. Fantastic. Yeah, oh, no thanks. OnePlus Nord Watch has officially launched, and it's got a nice 1.78-inch OLED screen and up to 30 days of battery life. I heard this somewhere recently.
5 minutes ago.
Oh, right. It could have been.
30 days. See, that's more like it, Google, if you're listening. Now, to be fair, this, in order to get 30 days of battery life in it, you've got to have it switched down to low power mode, which means probably that nothing works on it apart from just telling you the time.
Just call it off.
If you put it on active mode, and they're talking about 10 days, but even so, 10 days, if you're listening, Google, is significantly better than bloomin' 1 day, 24 hours. That's a lot. And to top it all, this little dinky watch from OnePlus is about 50 quid. You know, not 200 and 300 and whatever it is that Google are charging for their girly watch. I mean, their what was it you called it early? Dainty watch.
Dainty, yeah.
And, you know, it's just so cheap, isn't it? It may not be the best thing out there in terms of functionality, like, you know, your Galaxy smartwatch or whatever, or your Apple Watch. But, you know, 50 quid? Blimey.
Well, it does have an SpO2 monitor and a heart rate sensor and supports sleep tracking because, well, you can do that. You don't have to charge it every night. It's got it supports 105 exercise types, and it's also IP68 rated, so you can wear it on Mars.
Even better.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think, though, all joking aside, that's a serious amount of watch for that kind of price? Just amazing how they've done that.
It is, but obviously it's a fitness-focused one, so it's not going to have a rich interface for dealing with your notifications and things like that, which is, I think that's what people want more so. It will show you some, but they'll bleed through in between the fitness side of things. It would be nice. I like what Casio did with their Bluetooth-enabled ones, that gives you an idea that you have a notification, but it would be nice to have on your wrist a proper just notification monitor, so you don't always have to get your phone out of your pocket when you're looking for it, and you don't necessarily have to have a menstrual cycle to monitor and a heart rate sensor and things like that in it. Just a notification thing. That'd be great.
Very nice. I quite like that, and it's made of zinc alloy as well. It's not none of your rubbish. And yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I'm not saying that it could push me back over the edge of wearing a watch again, but when you get down to that kind of pricing, you know, it becomes very, very accessible to most people, doesn't it? A lot of people.
Yeah, it does. It does. But one thing that you would probably quite like is the new camera that they've just finished building, and I think you'll be able to pick these up on AliExpress fairly soon. This is an immense sensor type thing that's going to be the heart of the Legacy Survey of Space and Time telescope. Which is, I think it's in California, isn't it?
Chile.
I have to actually look now. Oh, Chile.
Well, it's going to be put up in Chile.
Ah, right, okay. But they're building the camera currently in California. Right. Maybe that's where I got the name California from. Yes. This is a rather large, what is it, 3,000, I've lost
3,200 megapixels.
Yes.
Wow.
That captures the night sky, and it covers an area of space that is, 7 times the length of the moon?
Mm-hmm.
And it can take pictures, so it should be able to find your wiener.
Enough of that kind of filth.
Sorry, I had to be extra childish there. I apologise.
Yeah, all the technology behind this is probably going to be beyond most people to understand, but they've worked with these sensors and put so many of them in there, and they're going to. The bottom line is that they're going to get images of the night sky, which is going to let us all see so far away that we'll be looking at the beginning of time So, and it's going to be on Earth, which I'm not sure. We've got the old Webb telescope out there floating around in the sky somewhere, but this is actually going to be on Earth, and it's going to be. I'm really looking forward to seeing what images they get from this, and see what. Presumably they put it in Chile because of getting the clearest sky they can get on Earth. But yeah, very interesting. I shall very much look forward to seeing what comes out of it.
Yeah, and just taking pictures of the moon or the planets that we can see, just to get that sort of slightly higher detail from the Earth perspective. The video itself is quite fascinating to watch because it's if you have any sort of form of OCD, you'll really enjoy the way the sensor comes together, because it shows them loading in the 21 sensors into the big glassy plate, and it's gorgeous. These things come out and connect to them, and then they go back in, and they're perfectly flush square pieces of the sensor. It's gorgeous just to watch. I really enjoyed that little video.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to test this thing out. Hopefully they'll let us come and take some pictures with it.
They'll lend it to it. We'll have a borrow.
Yeah.
Each one of those thingies that those thingies go into that you just described costs $3 million. Wow. 21 times 3 million is 60-something million dollars just for the sensor thingies. Blimey.
That's incredible, yeah. And to think if they had it done at this time next year, it probably would have been significantly cheaper.
Why?
Because the price thing always comes down every year.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. A new camera will be a lot cheaper this time next year.
Thank you, yes. If anyone's still making them.
True. This could be the last one. So back to smartwatches, because the Amazfit Falcon is coming on the October the 13th. And Amazfit is one success story that I quite like. And I know that people do sort of hate on them because they started out with kind of cheap, tacky smartwatches that did basic functions and things like that. And it's a company called Amazfit, which sounds like something you would buy off a market stall. But my hat's off to them, because they've persevered, and they constantly get good reviews. And I think they've collected all the resources together to put together a decent smartwatch, and that's the Amazfit Falcon, or also known as the Amazfit Vienna, just to confuse people. I think this looks like a lovely device. It's got 150 built-in sport modes. It's got dual band GPS connectivity, real-time navigation. There's 4 gigabytes of storage for music to be played locally, and it has a 24/7 heart rate, SpO2, and stress monitor. Battery life of up to 14 days on a single charge. And it's got a 1.28-inch AMOLED display with a 416 by 416 resolution at 9,000 nits. That's not bad.
Not bad.
There's no price. I'm just noticing.
There's no price, is there? I was looking for that. I thought Amazfit was to do with Amazon, but it's not, is it? We had, in PSC Towers, I don't know, a couple of years ago, we had a Zepp watch. Steve and I were banding it about between us for a while. And it was actually really good. And he was quite enthused about the old Zepp thing. Zepp being the company that Amazfit has kind of come from and are all kind of hooked up together. And it was as smartwatches at the time went, they were doing a really good job. This one looks like, if you watch the videos, it looks very, very much like up your street. I thought of you with, the Casio G-Shock kind of approach with dials and buttons and, Iron Man kind of look to it. And I thought, yeah, Gareth will be all over this one. And I was right. Yes.
Yes, it has a stainless steel body with sapphire glass and that kind of thing on it. So it's a much chunkier watch compared to that pixel wishy-washiness that you put on your wrist. and I'd be much more over this. And I'm actually looking at their previous model, the Amazfit T-Rex 2, which is currently sitting at $200 on Amazon. It does have some rather stinking branding of Amazfit on the side, but it looks like a good chunky watch. But I think this one just ekes it out. So I'm quite enthusiastic about what they're going to announce on October 13th, which is a whopping 4 days away. So that's what, Wednesday?
Thursday.
What day are
Wednesday. 9, 10, 11, 12. Thursday.
Okay, well, we'll wait till Thursday then. Don't wait till Wednesday. No. Well, you can wait till Wednesday, but you'll be disappointed because you have to wait another day. I'd like one of these.
Yes, I thought you might.
Mm-hmm. Yes, waterproofing and all that kind of
stuff. Yeah, well, not more than waterproofing. It's a diver's watch as well. You can go 20 metres down with it, and it's designed for diving and water sports. So this is none of your IP67 stuff. This is serious kit.
It doesn't say IPS, it just says serious kit on the side of the box. Brilliant Ted Salmon branding there. All right, moving on to some more serious kit is the Anker 767, which sounds like a plane, but it isn't. It's a PowerHouse Power Station with a 2048 watt-hour capacity and GAN technology. This is a rather nice-looking trolley-type battery that you can charge off of solar panels and things like that, or, as we found, smuggle it into work and plug it into the plug socket and work and charge it up that way. Someone was doing during the week and we only just gotten done.
Really?
Yeah. We don't know what we can do. It constitutes energy theft, but I think it only comes with a small fine of a milkshake or something like that. That's about it.
That's a good idea.
But anyway,
why not?
It is, yeah. You get a load of power batteries or power banks and do that, and then take them home and top up this. I think that's going to be a thing in office workers. You're going to have to watch out for that happening.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what the limits are on that. Is it okay for employees to plug their phone in to charge their phone? And if
no,
they're not. And you're okay. I didn't realise that. I thought that was kind of acceptable everywhere, pretty much.
Well, it's even like on trains and buses. It's a very low power as well, so that you can't really charge stuff off it. It can just keep things alive.
No, I know. But the point I was coming to was that I wonder where the limit is. If people are okay with charging their phones up, then is it okay to charge your 10,000 milliamp hour phone, or is it okay to charge your 15,000 milliamp hour tablet? In those places too, or is there a kind of a cut-off point somewhere where it's no longer acceptable?
No, it's I don't think it's ever been acceptable. It's just some places have turned a blind eye to it because it's quite difficult to enforce and prove.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always going to be a problem. I think that coming up, there's going to be people with outside plug sockets are going to have to secure them in some way because that's going to be the next big issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly when they start putting these things into lampposts. There was a thing this week about people that live in cities charging their cars up, and there's cables running across pavements because that's how the only way they can do it because they've got no garage or anything. And so they've got this scheme whereby they're talking about digging up a channel through the pavement, running a cable to a lamppost, and then putting the plug in the lamppost. Well, you can just see what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
Everyone that comes along, we'll have some of that.
Well, I was cutting the hedge a few weeks ago, and I went past the lamppost, and I was pulling out some of the ivy and things, and the front fell off the lamppost. And I had a look inside, and it was remarkably easy to splice in a wee wire and run it across to the house.
Yeah.
I could have done that.
Yeah.
But instead, I was responsible, and I reported it as a broken lamppost.
Well done.
Did my thing.
Yeah. Anyway, this thing is going to cost £400. As usual, I can't work out what the milliamp hour power capacity of it is. Unlike the one that we'll come to later on, where I asked Steve to do the maths for me, and he told me, but I don't know how to do it. But It's got a 3-pin plug in it, so it must be able to run some domestic items, I suppose.
Well, yeah. I do think that getting 2 of these would be a good idea, and the solar array, and then you can use one day and have the other one charging. I think, was it Steve pointed out that he could still, I think he had 2 of the solar arrays, and he was able to charge his battery in a day with both the solar panels.
Or you could
that's worth it.
Or if you had 2 of these, you could use one to charge the other, couldn't you? Brilliant idea.
Yeah, you would.
Oh shit!
All right.
Oh dear, shouldn't have done that.
I'll leave this one in so that people can know that what we podcasters have to deal with when Ted Salmon has a bit of a cold.
Yeah, bit of a cold. Cheeky get.
Well, if you insist on not washing your hands, you will get cold.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it costs around about £400, which is not fair because it's $400 as well, and it will equally cost €400. But I guess that'll only go up as the pound goes down further and further. I do like these, and one day I will eventually invest in one. But it does seem that every couple of weeks we're talking about a new one from Anker. And they just seem to be crapping these out.
You just said earlier that if you buy a camera next year it'll be cheaper. Now you're saying that if you buy this thing next year it'll be more expensive. Make your bleeding mind up.
If you buy this one this week, you'll probably not be able to get one, or you'll probably buy a new one next week. But there was a time whenever we were sitting waiting for one of these to come along, and now Anker just seemed to be throwing them at us left, right and centre. I'm confused as to which one should be purchased.
Yeah. So am I.
On that note, should we move on?
I wish they would just quote power in milliamp hours, because that means something to me. And they start using all these other things, and I don't know what's what. You've got to get a calculator out to work out. I want to know how many times it would charge a 5,000 milliamp hour phone battery. If I knew that, it would give me some idea of what this thing was about, or how
27. 27.
27. You just worked that out.
No, I'm just saying that so that it'll appease you until next week when someone writes in to contradict me. But we'll have moved on with our lives.
By then we won't care. Right, moving on.
Simple Phone, which has launched a new €400 phone which runs Simple OS. That is an OS that does not include Google in its party. So there's nothing really much you can do with it. It's got 4 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage, 4,500 milliamp hour battery, which can be charged apparently by the Anker 767 32 times. It's got an 1080 IPS IPS display, and 25 megapixel front-facing camera, and a 3 rear-facing cameras with 48 megapixels, 8 megapixels, and 5 megapixels. Unfortunately, they will not confirm as to whether or not the 8 megapixel and 5 megapixel serve any particular functions, whether they be macro or telephoto or anything like that, but ultra-wide angle and macro cameras could be a possibility. It runs on Android 11.
Boo.
Which they've jazzed up to be without the Google mobile services or Google Play Store. And it does bundle F-Droid as well as an alternative for an open source app store.
That's the key.
Have you ever used F-Droid?
That's the key, isn't it? Because in order to get this stuff, one of the questions that came up in the group this week when I posted this story was, how do you do your banking, for example, if you can't get an app to do your banking? And the answer is that you use some of the browser tools that are available in the F-Droid app store. And F-Droid is not the only one. If you go to some of these places, there are loads and loads and loads of open source apps that in the back of beyond we're just not very familiar with, because we don't live in this world. We live in the iOS and Apple and Google world. There's all this stuff going on behind the scenes, and you can do, even if you have to go to your browser or a browser. And I noticed that in the F-Droid list you can get DuckDuckGo, so many people talk about that very fondly. You can then go and do your banking via a browser. That was the answer to that one. But there are tons. If you go to F-Droid as an example, and that's not the only one, as I say, they're open source community providing apps that will work, apps and services on the Simple stuff is huge. I had no idea really. And also Simple make their own suite of applications which you can download from the Google Play Store and play with them if you want to, which I did a while ago actually, and see what they do. So they've got a phone app and a contacts app and a browser app and just a bunch of core apps. There's about 10 of them. And if you want to see what they feel like and what they're like, without buying a €399 Simple phone, you can actually see what they're like. And some of them are actually really good. They're very simple, as you would derive from the name. For example, the music player app doesn't go off and get album art. Well, it's not the only one that doesn't do that. There are other music player apps that don't do that. They're designed to play local content on your device. I like this idea. I think it's nice to see someone else doing something, and I don't think it's going to make them a name and a fortune, and it'll take off. But it's just really nice to see someone else doing something different and breaking out of the stupid two-horse race that we all have to live within.
Well, it's good to hear someone being positive about it and generating a little bit of excitement. We have seen phones try to do this in the past, where they've come without Google's function-based set pieces, and ultimately failing, which is unfair. And it is something that's Google's own doing as well.
Selfish didn't. Selfish is still going, and they still have a supporter community, but because it's so small and niche, no one ever talks about it. No one hears about it anymore. But it's still there and it still works. Sorry, I interrupted you. Carry on.
Well, but it's word that trickles down from Google, because they're constantly telling people that they shouldn't be using these alternative app stores because that's where the viruses and the insecurities come from. Whereas we'll be looking later on at how Google themselves are actually one of the most insecure environments for people to be using, because they try very hard to do their play protects and things like that. But whenever you go for something like Chrome and get a web extension, it's a wild west. It really is, and they need to hang their heads in shame because of how easy it is for people to be defrauded using Chrome, and they're forcing people to do this, and it really is unfair. I do like the idea of what Simple are doing here, although I am having a quick look at the F-Droid and it says last updated, there's a new app called To Don't, and it's the reverse of a to-do list.
To don't.
Sounds like a useful list. Don't install Google Play services or something like that. Maybe that's what it is. But we'll keep an eye on this and see if it does, but I'll have a look into Sailfish as well later today and see what's
with the Sailfish, you have to have a specific bit of hardware to run it, though. That's the only trouble. And there are some devices. Well, unless you've got a Yola phone, there's a kind of list of a few phones that you can install it on. I've just noticed that this Simple phone is being released on the 1st of November, and it looks like it's worldwide delivery. So 2-year warranty, SIM-free, 4G, so it's not 5G phone, and it has been de-Googled. That's very funny. Yeah. Anyway, I'm enthusiastic about that. I like it. Well done, Simple, I say.
Good show indeed. All right, because we're being very anti-Google this week. It's not a nice week for them. Yeah. Nokia has introduced the enhanced Nokia XR20 5G Industrial Edition, which has got to be one of the longer titles for a phone. Ted, do tell us about this one.
Well, are you ready for this?
Okay.
ATEX, IECEX, NEC 500, UL certifications make it protecting it not only against being played football with, which was all the kind of blurb when they first done it, but also against flammable chemicals and to be used in places where explosions could occur. So in other words, they've taken...
It's the new James Bond.
Yeah. In other words, they've taken the XR20 and they've made it even more bulletproof and flammable proof so that it can be used in industrial environments, I suppose. Interesting side story. One of my friends in the group who has got an XR20, there's three of us that I know of, he just this morning posted a thing that said, my front screen is cracked. He's got a little crack in the corner of his front screen. Now, fortunately, Nokia offer a 12-month warranty against that. Any reason, no quibble. If you send it back, they'll give you a new screen for the front of it within 12 months. But it's interesting. His point was that how has that happened? It shouldn't happen. This is a bulletproof phone. And
what were they doing with it in order for it to happen?
Yeah, exactly. He does live in a situation where he abuses it quite a lot. He owns horses and he kind of moves around a stable and a yard but even so, that's what this phone was designed for, and that's what it should be good for. And so I'll feed back when we find out how quickly and readily they replace the glass, and we'll come back to that. But this is kind of taking it a stage further, which will be out there for industry and commerce, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, a sort of indestructible phone that is quite destructible, depending on what you happen to be doing.
Well, nothing's really destructible, is it? If you got a
indestructible,
yeah. If you've got a chisel and a hammer and drove it through the middle of the screen, there's no way it's going to survive that. There's got to be limits always.
No, they need to make one that's made out of like Superman material.
Exactly.
With a pair of pants on it too.
Yeah. What's that stuff called? Kryptonite. Made of kryptonite.
No, kryptonite is the thing that can kill him.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah.
Fair enough. Just goes to show how much I know. Don't listen to Projector Room. Only listen to Gareth.
Don't undo what you did earlier on. Just go and watch Superman again. It's a superb film. It's coming out in 4K Ultra HD.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so USB Type-C cables and connectors are going to be easier to work out exactly what you're getting whenever you're buying one. I don't think it applies to whenever it comes inside of a box, but there's going to be new logos on things. I think it's going to be packaging as opposed to the cable itself. But I would love to be able to see them put in some sort of digital signature into the cable so that whenever you plug it in, you can tell. Or if there's one of those types of, the wee USB things that measure the amount of power, if you get one of those that measures the speed, you probably do have those. I'm just making that. Never mind. So there's going to be a new logo that goes on to the port logo, which is going to say USB 40 gigabits, 20 gigabits, 10 gigabits, or 5 gigabits, depending on what you have it on. And there's a packaging logo, there's a port logo, and then there's a device power logo as well, but not necessarily on the cable where it should really be. Ted.
This is just confusing. I think it was much simpler when they had the naming convention of USB 1, 2, 3. Then it seems to have gone to 3.1 and 3.2. The next one was going to be USB 4.
USB Super Speed. No, it was SS.
Oh, was it?
And then SSE Arena, sponsored by Power NI.
Okay.
I don't know. But they did. They started breaking it down. There was the Super Speed ones, which are red, I think.
Right.
Which should have been 4.
Yeah, the next one was supposed to be 4, USB 4, and they're ditching that in lieu of this system. And I think just in a geeky type way, littering things, even if it is boxes, littering things with numbers and logos, and it's just Joe Public is going to mean nothing to them at all. Surely 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 would be much simpler for people to understand, but no, they've got to go and change it to confuse everyone and to get all nerdy and geeky. That's what I've got to say about it.
Do quite like the idea of it. So when you're on the back of the PC, you can go, right, this port's a wee bit faster than that one, so I'll use this for that and that for this.
But they could put USB 4 on that. They don't have to put 40 Gbps and then a picture of a battery, and it's just confusing. There are 3 lots of logos there in this little table I'm looking at.
4.
4. No, I mean 3 different styles. One is this colour one, then there's this mono one, which hasn't got the USB on it at all, then there's a picture of a battery and the numbers in the battery, and it's just, people are not going to really... Anyway, there you go. USB should be universal. That's it. That's the point of USB. Not.
Do you notice under the device power port logo, there's the picture of the battery? It's got trademark written beside it.
It is, yeah.
Each of them. So why is that a trademark and the others aren't? Why is it a trademark? It's a universal stamp.
It's that picture of the battery, isn't it?
But there's a picture of a wire with a cable and things like that. Why are they not trademarked? Yeah. Can I go and use those? It's going to be Tech Addicts with a new wire thing because it's not trademarked.
I wrote to your MP about it.
I don't think she can even spell USB. Sorry, you were saying before I really
just to say, really, to reiterate what I was saying, that USB was supposed to be universal. Plug in what you like and it will charge. Not having to put logos and numbers and ratings and all that crap all over it. And, I think...
But it still will charge. Just it's the data side of things here. These are gigabits per second.
I know.
That we're talking about. So you need to have it on the cable. If you just pick up any old USB-C cable and whack it into a USB 40 gigabits per second, it's not necessarily going to get you 40 gigabits per second. It needs to stay on the cable.
I understand all that, but I'm just saying that the U has disappeared from USB.
Yes.
It's a U-free zone.
Right. No, I see what you're saying, that, if you have this on, say, the side of your laptop, they sell you a laptop and it's got the 10 gigabits per second, that's not exactly fair because you're buying a universal serial buff or whatever USB stands for again. I can't remember. It should be bus. I said buff, didn't I? Buffer. Yeah, that's what I was going for. It should be the USB 40 that you're getting, regardless of anything else. It should be just down to, if you buy an inferior cable, you'll have a lesser speed because you might get a cheap cable that comes along with a phone or something like that, or a Chinese thing that you happen to buy.
Looking at you, Oppo. You can have 65 watt charging as long as you buy a VoIP power brick and you use our cable and not unless. So what's the point, Oppo, of making that cable USB-C? It doesn't need to be USB-C. Well, except to plug into the phone, I suppose. It takes away the universality. That's my point of the whole system. If you either have a universal system or you don't.
Okay, but it does create a market.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Where you can end up buying things and erroneously buying the wrong thing and then going back and having to buy the right thing.
Yeah. And why isn't my kettle plugging in with a USB? If it's universal, it's universal.
Well, when was the last time you bought a kettle?
Microwave oven? Why hasn't that got USB for power?
Maybe it will day one day soon.
And why isn't my deep fat fryer, if I had one, not plugging into the wall via USB? No, universal rubbish.
You're making things up now, mister.
No, I don't have a deep fat fryer.
Well, one thing that you will be able to plug in via USB to charge it is Acer's new 16-inch OLED laptop, because it comes with a USB charger. This is the largest OLED laptop on the market, and it looks quite swish. I just wanted to throw it in there just to say it, because it looks quite swish.
No,
and they
no, it's the lightest, not the largest.
Oh, crap.
I think Apple would.
Sorry,
Apple would have
Acer.
something to say
I hope
about
you're
that,
not listening in. But yeah, it looks nice, and it's very light, and the lady using it is having a good time.
Oh yeah, so she is.
See her smiling.
Look at that hairdo she's got. Blimey.
It's very nice.
How long she
She
takes?
looks like a walnut whip.
Yes,
Sorry.
she does. You're right. I wonder how long it takes in the morning to do that. Anyway, carry on.
No, it's lovely. It's lovely, man. So it's just a big 16-inch OLED laptop. That's quite nice. It weighs in at only 1.17 kilograms, which is roughly 2.58 pounds.
Wow.
I'm not sure how that converts to milliamp hours, but I'm sure it does somehow. It measures 12.95 millimeters, which is 0.5 inches in height. And it has an ultra-slim magnesium, aluminium, or aluminum MIG alloy chassis.
Oh look, they put aluminium there. Is this a British site? I think it must be.
Well, actually, the origins of the word actually date back to aluminum.
Yeah.
It was originally there. Then the British English decided to change it to aluminium,
Yeah.
and then the Americans changed it back.
Yeah.
So, where we've always shouted at Americans for changing that, they're actually
Yeah, I know that.
I hate to say
I know that, but the only time you ever see that is by a British website, in my opinion, which makes me think this is a British website. Incidentally, 1.17 kilos would make it the weight of 4 Nokia XR20s. So this is very light, very nice indeed.
Yes, and also 63 gerbils.
Gerbils.
Gerbils, yes. That's going to be the new naming convention in the future. Where
Universal.
Against gerbils.
Is that universal?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no,
in the
hang on a
name of the
minute. I've got
game.
some fat gerbils. I've got some fat gerbils and thin gerbils. It can't be universal.
Well, you'll have to put them on a diet. The regulated size for a gerbil must be, and it depends on country, but a smaller amount than what you have in a fat gerbil.
Yes.
Right, in the name of the game, the UDU console.
Oh, have we finished that? I
controller.
thought you were going to carry on talking about this laptop.
No.
Right,
no.
okay then. I'll move on then. Carry on.
It's the lightest, as we already established, despite the fact that I thought it was the largest.
Right, leaping on to the next thing. Oh, look, it's a Nintendo.
It is. It's kind of like a Nintendo controller with a magnetic charger, a trigger button, a squeeze button, Bluetooth connection, and Wi-Fi. It also has a magnetic charging cable. This is it's a single-handed game controller for mobile gaming, and it allows you to interact with your mobile outdoors and indoors, I'm hoping as well, with motion controls.
This is what Nintendo did with the Wii, didn't they? I had a Wii,
did, yeah.
a Wii.
I have one beside me now.
Right, and that's it. It's like a wand, and you could use it for playing games in front of the telly and stuff. It's exactly the same, isn't it? Aren't they going to get? Are they going to get sued?
No, I think it's just along the same lines. But motion controls they're nothing really new. I still have a Logitech one here, a mouse, that doesn't work with Windows 11 anymore because the actual Unify thing doesn't work. But you could control your mouse by swaying your hand around, on in front of the screen, and it would follow the mouse. It was kind of cool. So this is a kind of revved up version of that allows you to be able to do stuff, interact with your phone, and play games. And you can squeeze it too. Yeah.
Nice.
I wouldn't like to be sitting on the bus using this.
What do you squeeze it for? Just
playing the Nescafe game.
Some other function, I suppose. Probably assignable.
It could be, yeah. I suppose you can assign that depending on. Well,
the squeeze button.
I'm trying to think of
a
where
button
in the game.
A button that feels like no other. You could use it as a trigger. That could be a gun thingy, couldn't it? Chug, 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 chug. Or some flight simulator. You could be shooting other planes with it.
Yes. Well, there you're seeing the potential for it.
Yeah.
It's an ugly thing, I'll have to say. I can't say I'll be using this terribly often, but there's a Kickstarter if anyone is interested in having a Nintendo Wii-style interaction with their phone. And there's going to be... They aim to have plus 100 games in the UDU Games app over the coming years. And you can use it on geolocation games like Pokemon Go.
Right. 105 quid.
Great. Nothing.
£105.
Yes. Yes, it.
Wow. And that's 40% off as well. That's the Kickstarter price. So it's going to be actually 150 quid, isn't it?
Do you have a funny feeling it's not going to sell terribly well?
Moving on.
Yes. Moving back to Google, where this generates a lot of feelings and a lot of things that can happen out of it. Google's former head of ads, Neva, is bringing an ad-free search to Europe. The ad-free search engine was launched last year, and it allows you to search for stuff that you want to find without having ads and promoted posts and things like that thrust at you. So doing what a search engine should do. No, I'm not going to get ranty about it. Okay, they're bringing this to Europe. Ted, tell me it's all right.
Well, Neva is the name of this this search engine thingy. And this bloke that used to work for Google has apparently gone off and created this. And they've got a user base in America of 600,000 users at the moment. And they're planning on bringing this to Europe. And you can actually now download it. I nearly did it yesterday, and I just pulled out at the last minute. I wasn't too sure. But if you click on the links in the show notes, you can click through and download it as a Chrome extension. So Neva needs to work within another browser. Well, at least at the moment, this is not a browser by the looks of it. It's a search engine that works in other devices. There's also
DuckDuckGo does this.
Eh? Yeah,
DuckDuckGo
that's right.
Does it, yeah.
And Brave and all the rest of it. But there's also an iOS app, and there's also an Android app, and so this can be played with. You know, I think you're right. It does raise people's hackles in terms of what is advertising and what isn't. And some of the questions they pose to this bloke called, what's his name? Noam Gali. Is that his name? No, that's the bloke. That's the bloke that took the photo. Anyway, I can't remember. He said that they were monetizing it by adding even extra security levels to those that cough up and pay. No indication of how much they're paying, but a bit like the MeWe model, I suppose, is that I quite often wonder how on earth MeWe pays for itself. And when the question is asked, it's all about people buying those little add-ons and those extra things. So clearly this could be more secure than it is and less ad littered than it is, or whatever, I don't know. But if you pay Neva some money, then you'll get an even more secure environment. So I don't know. I think one or both of us needs to go away and install the Chrome extension or install it on our phones and see what we find, whether we are littered with adverts via it or not, and see how it goes. But yeah, you can. It says it's coming to Europe, but it is actually here now. You can use it on a desktop or on iOS or Android. You fancy trying it?
I already have. Handily, whilst you were blethering, I went and installed it, and I have done a couple of searches on it, and it works decently. Putting in, I just picked a random person, Pamela Anderson, and I placed her name into the search engine, and it's come up with it. First off, it's the Wikipedia link, and then there's news sources, Yahoo, Daily Mail, and Yahoo. Then there's some videos, and then it goes into what you would expect from a good old-fashioned Google experience back in, I don't know, say the early 2000s, where it gives you a bunch of websites like the Pamela Anderson Foundation, which is her official one, then IMDb, then Go, then Daily Mail, then The Independent, InStyle, Biography.com, and then Glamour.com. That's all on the front page. And then there's images for Pamela Anderson at the bottom. If you would like, I will go in and investigate these even more.
No. Keep your hands out your pockets.
No, it's all above board. It's family safe, and there's an awful lot of images there. It doesn't feel like there's anything placed. There's a little biography on the right hand side with some information, a bit like Google does do when you search for someone. So if I was to try something else like the HTC HD2. I'll put a space in there so it knows what I'm talking about. It comes up with a phone when I'm typing it in, but then it shows Wikipedia, GSM Arena, Verge.com. So there isn't anything that's saying, here, go here to buy it. Amazon's halfway down the screen.
Right. So because all the adverts are missing. If you go to IMDb, the worst offender on earth for adverts, is there just big spaces around the content, or... how have they arranged IMDb?
Well, all my ads are blocked anyway
because
of my pie hole. So now I'm thinking about this probably isn't a very effective test.
No.
We need to have someone who doesn't have a pie hole.
Like me.
Like you. You should have been doing this while I was blathering.
Homework for next week. I'll install Neva left, right and centre and report back next week, okay?
But it's... I don't know. I suppose it is quite good, but it's not exactly a replacement. If I open up a new tab and start typing in at the top of my Google browser, it's... Oh, no, it is. It goes to Neva, right? I'll keep it going for a wee while until they start asking me for some money, and then I'll hate the company forever. But, it's nothing new. DuckDuckGo has one of these that you can go and install, and it gives you a more safe and secure... Hang on a second. Images for Gareth Miles.
This is supposed to be ad-free, though. Not ad-reduced. Ad-free.
That's not me. Who's that? Cyclist Gareth Miles. He's not me. Yes, well, it is ad-free, but then I can't.
No, I'll test it. Don't worry. I'm quite happy to have come back next week with what I find on that. And anyone else listening, do test it as well and let us know what you find. If it's any better than DuckDuckGo or Brave or anyone else that claims to be an ad-free experience.
Well, I would say that images straight away look a lot better than... Image searching looks a lot better than DuckDuckGo, because I was using DuckDuckGo whenever I went to do some of the art work for these podcasts and Projector Room podcasts. I was really struggling to find images to put in using the DuckDuckGo image search. So Neva is producing vastly better pictures straight up.
Right, very good. Leave it with me.
YouTube is going to be requiring some users to pay for 4K streaming. This is a new thing that YouTube are looking to put 4K content behind a paywall. I see you say that, but then it's actually a good idea. Yeah, so moving on. YouTube are obviously looking to remove most of their costs in some way, and we've got a large amount of people who are out there and maybe have a phone with a 4K screen on it, and they're streaming 4K content down to that phone. Whenever 1080p is perfectly fine, you're not going to notice the difference initially. I mean, some of the videos that I put out are 4K. Why anyone would stream any of them in 4K is sort of beyond me. I've just done them in 4K because I've got a 4K camera. It's your option. If you want to do that, go ahead. But 1080p would be the appropriate best way to watch them to, ease the burden on YouTube servers, ease the burden on your local ISP having to push that content down to you, and, the melting ice caps and all these sorts of things. It makes for a better idea that they can do this, that 4K content can go behind maybe something like YouTube Premium as a perk for people to move to YouTube Premium. And you get what you pay for then. You feel better. And also, they can downsize. Maybe 1 in 3 people will be streaming 4K instead of 3 in 3 people whenever there's a 4K video available. I think it will benefit YouTube in the years to come until 4K actually becomes our standard, whereas 1080p currently is our standard, and people are unnecessarily streaming 4K just so they can. It's a resolution, it's not a quality thing. It's an unnecessary resolution that could actually be getting downsized whenever it reaches your TV or your device anyway, but you're just going, I want 4K because 4K is available to me. Does that help?
You make a viable argument, and one which I hadn't considered to that kind of angle, and you've changed my mind completely.
Well, I was thinking yesterday when I was explaining to someone, I said, well, your car can do 120 miles an hour. Do you jump into it and drive to the shops to get a loaf of bread at 120 miles an hour, or do you drive at 30?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you're allowed to, they might drive at 120.
But it would probably not do things the best for you. You would get there quicker. You would use up a heck of a lot more fuel. There's more likely that you're going to kill people. There's a lot of pros and cons to it, and I think the cons outweigh the pros greatly.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's a good thing. I always said it was a good thing, this paying for 4K. Yeah.
Yeah, stick it behind that paywall. I pay my premium, so I'm all right with that, and I like it as one of those bonus features that I would very much enjoy.
I never use 4K for anything. Well, not knowingly. If something is delivered to me in 4K, I probably wouldn't know anyway. So I've got my...
Because earlier this year, you only just went, hang on a second, I'm noticing a difference between 720 and 1080.
Yeah, I do. If I look and say, oh yeah, that's 4K or 720 or whatever it is. Oh yeah, I can see the difference. What was that? Oh yeah, it was a film, wasn't it? I was watching this film, which was in a higher resolution. I can't remember what it was, and I could see the difference. Having said that, I've happily gone back to what I normally do since that day I said that, and I've got no ill effect at all. I'm quite happy. Anyway, I'm just wonky. My eyes are nearly 60.
True, yeah. But it's funny that YouTube's having this trouble, but Pornhub isn't. Anyway, Spotify's latest acquisition is a company that detects harmful content in podcasts. Now, this is more fallout from the Joe Rogan issue where he was spreading COVID-19 vaccine misinformation. And Spotify, a music streaming giant, were challenged to do something about it because it turned out to be the most listened to podcast on the planet. Primarily, Spotify should be focusing on their music more so than actual podcasts. But now they've got mixed in with this. They had a problem in that some of their artists, like Neil Young, decided they would take all of their content off Spotify because of the whole Joe Rogan thing. They weren't taking action. And they're a music streaming site or platform, first and foremost, so they should be treating their musicians with respect as opposed to pandering to Joe Rogan and his opinions. So what we ended up with is this new outfit that is going to kick people off of Spotify if they believe that they are producing harmful content. For example, what we're talking about here, they could misinterpret that as harmful content because it's harmful to their business, so they will kick Tech Addicts Podcast off Spotify for something I couldn't give a shit about because I don't like Spotify. I never have. Mm-hmm. And people's opinions are important as long as they're not doing as much harm as some things. I would have never dared tell anyone to change their opinion. And what happened to Joe Rogan, it's his opinion. If he wants to believe those sorts of things, then he can believe those sorts of things. It's up to a person to make an educated and informed decision as to whether or not they want to believe them. Spotify shouldn't be the ones that are interacting here, but they've got to keep their music focused first. Now, there's songs in Spotify's catalogue that contain the misinformation. But there's no focus on those. It isn't purely pointed toward podcasts here. So I think Spotify need to ditch podcasts altogether because they shouldn't be involved in the argument. Ted, do you have any theories on this?
No, not at all. I'm keeping out of it. But I agree with you about Spotify. Not that I've really ever used it, but I just, it's something that other people use. It's hugely, hugely popular though, isn't it? If you buy for example, if you buy an internet radio, the one service that is baked in to the ROM of the internet radio will be Spotify. And it's downloaded as bloatware on loads and loads of phones along with Facebook. And I mean, it's a huge, huge company. And if they are able to control misinformation, then, perhaps we'll have less incident like we've had in some of the kind of political problems we've had in the last 5, 6, 7 years across the world, which have been partly, arguably, as a result of that kind of thing going on. It's very difficult. I don't want to get political and all this, but I'll leave the comments as yours.
Yes. Well, I'm a moron whenever it comes to these sorts of things, and obviously I get confused, and I just have my opinion, and it's not based on every single bit of information out there. It's just based on what I have managed to acquire the knowledge of at the time of giving it, and I can quite easily change my mind going forward. But whenever it comes to Spotify policing harmful content and hate speech, I do have a funny feeling that they're not going to do that appropriately well. And any time a large corporation has tried to do that, they've done it very, very poorly, and they shouldn't be doing that. Everyone's allowed to have their opinion, and as long as it doesn't hurt anyone, then it should carry on.
That sounds like a view that leads us right into the next item.
It does, because our dearly beloved Twitter are going to be closing their deal with Mr. Elon Musk.
On which you can say whatever you like, particularly if you're a mate of Trump.
Yes, and Elon himself will block you if he doesn't like what you're saying.
Like Spotify might.
Very true, very true. So the whole idea of, I think Elon was sort of, Mr. Musk was forced into this, I'd say, because he'd done it before, and he caused the company's share price to go down and stuff like that. So he was kind of forced to do this. Having him as Lord Provider and the dude in charge of Twitter might get some people's. It might cause some people a lot of turbulence and fury whenever it comes to dealing with the social network, because it's already a bit of a minefield. I do wonder what's going to happen going forward if this were to happen. He does have some ideas, he does have some plans, but everything is just so horrendous whenever it comes to these giant corporations just gradually policing things.
Nanny state.
Well, it's not even that. I don't want. I'm desperately not trying to get all conspiracy theory, because that's the way these things can go, and in the end we'll all end up really hacked off. But I guess if anything, that'll be where a new social network grows out of, because everyone will just exit, and then eventually something else will take off.
The Trust Network.
The Trust Network. Oh, that's Trump, isn't it?
Yeah. No, yeah. Truth. Truth.
Oh, he was Truth.
Was it Truth or Trust?
Yes.
No, Truth, wasn't it?
I think it was Truth.
Apparently, they've put the whole of this lawsuit on hold now. It hasn't been dropped, but it's been put on hold, presumably until they see the colour of his money. You just get the feeling that you're being manipulated, I think. that it's all a media game, and that Elon Musk had no intention of dropping out of it. It's just that by doing it the way that it's been done, he's got loads more coverage. He's got a pair of buffoons on a podcast on a Sunday lunchtime talking about him, raising his profile, getting his name out there. It just seems like it's all just a media game, and that he was intended to buy it anyway. And it's just I feel manipulated.
Are you saying that he did this to get a mention on Tech
Yes.
Wow. Right, okay.
Twitter is just huge, though, isn't it? I don't know if it's worth $44 billion, but it's huge. You know, everyone seems to... I know that it has its ups and downs, and people have their good days and bad days with it, and it wavers between people slagging it off and thinking it's the best thing. But everyone is on Twitter. Everyone of any note. It's not like, you know, Facebook even. If you want to look up anyone of note in the whole world, they'll just be on Twitter, with very few exceptions, I would guess. And so it's huge.
It is, yes. And it is kind of going the way... It seems to happen that way. There was... what was it? There was Bebo, and then eventually it moved on to Facebook, and then it moved... That seems to be moving now into Twitter, because, you know, they just end up hemorrhaging their user base once they start making big changes. And I think that Musk taking over Twitter will bring in an age of big changes.
What, for the worse?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Well, whilst he probably perceives they would be better, and he wants people to have freedom of speech, but you're never going to be able to manage that. Any decision you make is going to annoy someone.
How many?
Like every time we decide to do one of these podcasts, someone out there gets angry. I don't know why, but they do.
I just looked up on internet on Tinternet, and it says that on the 6th of September 2022, Twitter had 450 million active users. I don't know how that compares with Facebook, but it seems quite a lot to me.
It is, and I'm saying probably about 5 million of those are real people.
Well, yeah, there is that, I suppose, which is why he was claiming that he wanted to pull out in the first place, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
If that wasn't a game and a media circus.
No, but I think whenever he went to pull it out, the share price dropped considerably, and they were threatening legal action because he sort of wiped a couple of billion off the total value of the company, and then he would be able to maybe even buy it cheaper, or someone else would be able to buy it cheaper. So because he committed to buy, they threatened to take him to court. If memory serves, that might be the reason. Maybe it's not. If not, let me know that I'm a moron. Start it with, Gareth, you're a moron. I'm used to that.
Yes, okay.
Yes, and you have to spell moron correctly. You have to make it moron. You know, you've got to get the emphasis on moron. Make it sound angry.
Yes. You can put that into your Gmail address, you know. If you've got a Gmail address, like mine's Ted Salmon, you put a dot after it and then put moron after it. It'll still get to the person. You put what you like in a Gmail address. Just thought I'd mention that.
Right. If you've got a dot.
That's how people filter Gmail. So if you were having a, supposing you were having a campaign for something, and it was about selling, I don't know, Marshall radios, you could advertise the email addresses tedsalmon.marshall, and then everything that came into your Gmail, you could have a filter that filtered all of those emails into one, what we know as a folder. And you can. The point is that you can play about with Gmail addresses to a large degree, and it still gets to you.
So that would work if you... Well, if tedsalmon.marshall@gmail.com?
Yeah, that as I understand it, I've not tried it, but as I understand it, you can do what you like as long as you've got the Ted Salmon bit in.
Okay, all right. Interesting. That could
work.
We could
because Google ignores dots anyway, you see. If people send me an email, they could send it to t.e.d.salmon, and it will still get to me. It doesn't consider dots as anything.
That's one of the problems I've had with my Chromebook. Sometimes whenever I go to log into it, it'll say GarethMiles@gmail.com as opposed to Gareth.miles@gmail.com.
There you are. I rest my case.
I still can't log in with just GarethMiles@gmail.com. I have to log in as Gareth.miles@gmail.com.
In your Chromebook?
Yeah.
Right.
But it does show up from time to time.
Yeah, that might be slightly different to... Logging into your account might be different to what I've just said about Gmail. It might be a way in which Gmail is processed, and it doesn't apply broadly to Google accounts if you're trying to do something else.
Well, we're all a little bit dumber now. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Google Chrome. What's happening in Google Chrome outside of that in the Chrome corner?
I thought you were on this one. We spoke about it earlier. The browser, Chrome browser, apparently is the most vulnerable one in 2022, presumably so far. It's got the most vulnerabilities, 303, compared to the next worst offender, the Mozilla Firefox, 117. Microsoft Edge is 103. Safari is...
Which is based off of Chromium.
It is,
anyway.
and a lot of them are based off of Chromium, which is one of the arguments that they were making here. Safari is 26, so that's not so bad. Opera, for some reason, they've stuck in there as 0. But again, Opera
Which is based
off of Chrome. Yeah. So anyway, the point was that this study that came from, who is it? The VulDB vulnerability database have slated Chrome as the worst. However, to be fair to Chrome and to Google, given how much it's used, it's not surprising that more people would be paying attention to it and trying to find vulnerabilities, since it will be the target for most users. In other words, this bit of study is probably a load of crap, because the more popular a thing is, the more likely tools to analyse it are going to be finding stuff wrong with it. And that's probably why Opera's got none, because no one uses it. But actually, if you applied the same principles to studying it, you might find the same. So this whole item's probably a load of crap.
Well, it's always the way. Windows has more viruses on it than Mac OS because there are more people who use Windows. So it's in a virus writer's benefit to write it for Windows more so than Mac OS, because they'll get more people to infect. So that would work with Chrome. Everyone's using Chrome, so it's the one thing that you need to start targeting whenever you're writing malicious code.
Indeed. And also,
I do wonder going forward if Mozilla Firefox, with people abandoning Chrome as much as they seem to be right now, if Mozilla Firefox will then go up, but they're two inherently different engines. So you can't just manipulate the code that you're writing for Chrome to work on Firefox going forward. You can for Edge and Opera, so I would say that they would probably be as vulnerable as Chrome going forward.
The other thing that this article points out is that Google have been pretty good with keeping Chrome up to date and protected. So while vulnerabilities do pop up, they get patched pretty quickly. Which is true. Almost any time I go to my browser and click on the old update to see if there's an update, there very often is. Google roll out updates to Chrome all the time. It's a very active environment, as you say, like Windows.
I haven't checked in ages.
There you are. Rest my case. Let's both check now, shall we?
Up to date.
Settings, about Chrome, up to date. I got version 106.05249.103.
That's the same.
Yeah, we're so cool.
All the kids will be like us. All right, moving into Hark Back, where you're going to talk to us about talking to us.
I am. Dictation machines. This is something that I hark back from, and this is largely to do with my business activities when I was working in an office environment, and I had a secretary or two, and I was able to do my letters and not have to type them myself, which at the time, you had an old-fashioned typewriter and that was your lot, just moving in laterally to word processors, but nowhere near the kind of computerization that we have now. So I had a little dictaphone machine in my hand, and the more time went on, the more fancy they got. I used to love them. It was the toy of the day almost, and you'd have features added like voice activation, for example, and it stopped when it didn't hear you speaking. Whereas the early ones, you had to just press on the button the whole time while you were speaking, and you could quickly review it. And it was great fun just to use it. So you dictate your letter onto this thing, or whatever it is you're dictating. And the secretary person, or the person who was going to be doing this, would take the tape off you, put it into their mothership machine, which had a pair of headphones, which are not like real headphones. They're like dangly headphones that just kind of go around your neck. Hard to describe. And the whole thing was connected at the secretary's end to a foot pedal. So while the secretary was typing, listening to what you're saying, typing, they could control the playback with a foot pedal. And it worked brilliantly well, because if I was speaking too quickly, like I am now, the person could just press the pedal and it would stop. They would catch up with their typing and then move on. So the point was that I think that all the hardware involved in it was the fun bit for me, and I really enjoyed using it. And of course, we've moved on very quickly after that. We all do our own typing now, don't we? I mean, do you have access to a secretary at all if you need something typed? Exactly.
No,
I'm not sure if anyone does, really. I suppose really rich people might, but it was just an era that I went through, and I remember it very fondly, and it was really, really enjoyable, because for me it was about the tech. It wasn't about the powerful manager who had a secretary to do stuff for them. It was more about really enjoying the hardware and the whole system of it working, because that's what we do on Tech Addicts. That's what we like, is all the tech involved. Incidentally, this thing took these little micro tapes usually. Philips, I remember, being one of the main players that we often went to. Philips tape.
Pocket memos?
Pocket memo, yeah. I had loads of these things. I used to waste the company's money on so many of them. I'd make excuses to get the next one that came out, claiming that the old one was not good enough anymore, and I'd just get the new one because I wanted to play with the tech. Anyway, are they called micro tapes? I think they are. So you take a compact cassette that we've used to, the full size tapes that you put into a Walkman, and it's about a quarter of the size of that. Diddy little tapes that we've spoken about before. Well, not those Diddy ones, but we've spoken about tapes before, and it was all just good fun. Have you ever had the joy of using a dictation machine and a dictaphone and a transcription system ever?
Well, you might have heard me clattering about there. And
Yay,
that is
the
the
tape.
sound of one of those little dinky 30-minute 005 executive tapes, because my dad had one. He had the Philips Pocket Memo 381. Now, in a tragic story, I lost my father some years ago, and we cannot find a recording of his voice anywhere. Then I remembered he had this, the Pocket Memo, and I went through all of his tapes, and they're all blank, because he blanked them all afterward, or at least the secretary that he gave them to would blank them so that he could use them again.
Right.
But every now and again, I got one word, in between where she'd blanked. So I cobbled them together, and we had about 6 words of him saying it with really and at. But I've got this one here, which I think I was zipping through, and I found something, but the batteries were a bit rubbish. Hang on.
Oh, that's so... Hearing that doing that is so iconic. Such a good Hark Back that is. Do it again. Go on. Let me...
There's a bit of voice here. Okay. It might be that the tape itself is buggered because I put in some new batteries. It did that earlier with the batteries that were in it.
Right.
Because I'd left batteries.
I wonder if you can still buy these. I wonder if people do still use them. If you went onto Amazon, well, let's try it. Let's see if a dictaphone machine is on Amazon. Do people still use them?
Oh no, they are. You can get the tape ones still are there, but they're more sort of MP3 style players, little dinky ones, a bit like Zooms.
But what about a mothership for someone transcribing?
Yeah.
Dictaphone, transcribing machine. I don't know if someone.
There's the Pocket Memo that you link to.
Oh yeah. Here's one. The Olympus AS 2400. Yeah. Oh no, that's just the pedal. No, it is. Yeah, it is. It does do the whole thing. It's a secretary kit. People still must do this.
Hang on a second. The Pocket Memo, which is a dictation and transcription set, which features a mini cassette, sensitivity switch, or conference or close range recording, automatic gain control, and it's got a little pair of those headphones with the kind of square shaped one that goes around your chin.
That's it.
So you can put them up and in your ears. And the foot pedal for starting and stopping, and then the playback thing costs £2,205.
Well, there's an Olympus one on Amazon for 150 quid. So, there's another one here, look. 332 quid, another Olympus one. People must still use these. I'm amazed. It must be old-fashioned people, mustn't it? Or people, maybe it's people without any fingers, they can't type.
People from the 1800s. No, I've got two tapes. There are two little tiny 30-minute cassette tapes from Philips, and my dad's 381 Pocket Memo. But I remember him having better ones than these in the past. Mm-hmm. This one looks a bit dodgy and ropey. He must have picked this up for 30 quid or something out of Argos.
Right.
But yeah, you can fast forward and rewind with buttons on the side, and then push it up to play, and then there's a record button on the left-hand side that you hold in, and then it starts to record.
Is there no voice activation?
There's a thing at the top which says VA.
That's
so
the
that
one.
Must be voice activation.
I remember that well. I remember when that first came out, and I was wowed by that. Oh, look, it stopped. Shh! Stop talking. It stops. Start talking again. Oh, it is recording me again.
And your boss is freaking out that they've just spent money on this, and that's what they hear you do.
Yes. Anyway, it was a good era, and I'm talking about when I was involved with using this, probably 1980. 1988 onwards for the next kind of probably 5, 6, 7, maybe even 10 years. Yeah, late 80s to late 90s, I would say, and then we started to get proper other ways of doing stuff, and people were expected to stop shaking that tape.
I'm trying to get it back in. There we go.
After that, people were expected to kind of do their own thing, really. As is proved by your job, for example, and latterly mine. No one was going to do any typing for me. You just get on and do it, don't you?
Yeah. I'm just listening back to what's on these tapes because they're silly stuff. Well, yes. They are useful. They're handy. They charge off AA batteries, and they're simple.
Yeah,
and they got businesses doing what businesses do best, which is business.
I wish I could use one now. I wish that there was some justification in using one instead of just buying a transcription machine and or a dictaphone and speaking into it for no reason. Oh, I'll listen back to that. Oh, there, look, I can hear myself.
Well, there was another side of it as well. I remember getting was it Dragon Natural Speaking?
Oh yeah, you can still get that. Aidan Bell uses that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Does
got it. He never types unless he can avoid it in his computer, and he just uses speech all the time.
I suppose that's not a bad thing. I do remember getting it when I was quite young and putting it on my Windows 95 or Windows 98 computer and thinking, wow, this is going to revolutionise. I'll be able to record my magnum opus. And it was horrendous. Oh, it was
crap,
dreadful.
yeah.
It wouldn't recognise any form of, non-American accent. And my father-in-law, he had macular degeneration, so he wanted to use computers, but he just couldn't see the keyboard or the mouse. So I set him up with Dragon so that he could turn on his computer, and it was just a Horlicks. It was so difficult. And I guess, even down to, for him having macular degeneration, it asked you to read this chapter of a book so that it would be able to familiarise itself with your voice. But if you can't see to read the book, what do you do?
That's a bit tricky.
So I'd have to read it out to him.
Or, no, you get a dictaphone.
Get them to repeat
you get a dictaphone. That's what you... a dictaphone and a transcription machine in order to get Dragon working.
Yeah. Oh well. It's good to know it's still going, actually, and Aidan's using it. So
Yeah.
I suppose somewhere's got to use it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving into some cheapy things in our bargain basement, where we've alluded to a number of times. Yes, what's up first there, Ted?
Oh, just the 11th and the 12th of October, which is... Oh, God, when is it? Tuesday and Wednesday this week. I don't know if it's worldwide, but in the UK there's the Amazon Prime Day, and I wonder if there's something that you might be having eyes on to get. I want to get a life-size picture of Ana de Armas. I'm waiting for that on Tuesday.
You really worry me. Okay.
Have you got any things that you have kind of got your eye on that you think, oh yeah, I'll wait till then and get it?
Well, see, I stick them all in my basket and then add them to my, take them out of the basket so they're sitting outside of your cart.
Save for later.
Yeah, and it notifies you of important messages, so I'll just jump in and out of that. Everything I want is in there. Solar panels. I want solar panels.
Solar panels.
And a zero water cup filter thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite interested in that. I've heard that it breaks very easily, but I'd still like to have a go.
I want a Logitech MX mechanical keyboard. I really, really want one. And I know that you poo-poo the whole thing, but I really fancy one. And it's $169.99. So actually, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to put that into my basket now and put it in save for later and see what happens with that.
Yeah, do that. I had an adventure with my Logitech keyboard yesterday. Yeah. It was really annoying me. I was trying to use my computer for an hour in the afternoon, and the backlight kept lighting up and then stop and go away and then light up and stop and light up and stop, and it did this throughout the entire time, and I was really annoyed. I was thinking, is it telling me there's an update to the firmware or something like that? I'll turn my computer off and back on again. I'll disconnect, take the USB out, put it into a different USB. No, it wouldn't stop it. It just kept essentially flashing slowly at me. And eventually I just got a bit hacked off with it, and I picked the keyboard up and I banged it off my desk, and a crumb fell off. And it stopped.
Oh, right.
A crumb was activating the backlight.
That'll teach you to eat sandwiches at your computer.
I haven't been. I don't know where the crumb's from. Unless it's a flake of dead skin or something like that that's come. Or something's flown out of my nose when I've shouted loudly. Yeah.
I'm still using my one that they replaced. The new one is still in the box. I still haven't decided what to do with it, because this one works perfectly all right.
And you've written shift back on Tipex, haven't you?
No, I haven't actually, but I know where it is. Guess what? I know where it is. But yeah, that's what I would really like. And as I say, I know that you poo-poo it, but I really fancy one. And it's an MX system keyboard as well, so it'll work with all the software and it'll be just so cool. I want a mechanical keyboard.
Fair enough. Well, hopefully you'll get it. But what we could look out for in the meantime is if you absolutely need them now, and I'm still on course for saving power in your home and equipping smart plugs, plugging your TV in your living room into it so you can say at the end of the day, turn off the TV, and it'll turn off the TV so it's not sitting on standby all night. It'll eliminate that standby and save you a small amount on your electricity bill, but over all the year and all the little individual things, being able to do this is worth
decades
the money that you're laying out for these while they work. And the TP-Link Tapo Smart Plug Wi-Fi Outlet 4-pack is reduced from £50 down to £29.62, and this will achieve it for you. My computer here, I have it plugged into one of them, and a big surge protector coming out of it that has all the bits and pieces, my hard disks and stuff like that. And then I shut it down at the end of the night, and I walk out and I say to Mr. G over there to turn off the computer, and I hear it go click, and I know that there's no power going to the computer for any of the hard drives to suddenly spin up or whatever. It's not costing me anything, which is great. And also, I don't think these have any LEDs on them either, so they're cheap to run themselves.
Very good. And there's also £1.50 voucher, which makes it £28.12.
Oh,
£28.12 for 4 plugs. It's pretty good, isn't it?
It is, and I think they are one of the most useful things to have around the house. Although it is worth pointing out that you should also check your router as well to see how many devices you can support on your wireless network. Because if you go out and buy 60 of these to put into every plug socket, you're going to start getting inconsistencies with your wireless network, because you'll have too many things plugged in on your Wi-Fi.
That's no good then, is it? That makes them £7 each. I worked that out very carefully. £7 each.
Well, there is a set as well with energy monitoring in them, but they are the full £50.
Oh, right.
So they can give you feedback on just how much electricity it's drawing during the day.
Oh, right. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Very good.
Fun. What's next?
This is the little bundle of the Marshall Major 4 Bluetooth headphones and the Emberton. Now, this is not the Emberton 2, it's the Emberton, so it hasn't got all the fancy hookup to the app and everything. But the Emberton, if you want just an ordinary Marshall speaker with a really good battery, then the Emberton one is perfectly good enough. Anyway, they bundled these two together, 22% off. It's now £248, and I've got the Marshall Major 4 headphones here, and they're really, really good. In fact, I've got them on now. Bluetooth as well as wired. You can use both. And wait for this, 80 hours of playback time. 80 hours.
Ooh.
I don't think I've ever seen a pair of headphones that have got 80 hours before, apart from these. The battery must be just stunning. So yeah, little bundle there for someone that wants it. $248.
$248.
That's it, John?
Yeah. No, that's decent enough. It's $129 for the headphones, then $119 for the speaker, and then add those together and then take off the 22%. Not bad.
Very clever that was. Yeah, well done.
I'm going to go with one of your favourites that you like to bring, because it's reduced again from £140 down to £90, and that's the Elgato Stream Deck.
Woo!
Classic.
It's interesting how they call it a classic. This is the first generation. I know. How can we sell this? I know. We'll put the word classic after it.
Well, yes, it was the one that got it off the deck. It's the one that established the need. People realised they wanted one of these. And I'd probably pick one of these up. I don't think the second one has as big of a step up.
It's got a USB-C cable, and it's got these stupid cards you can put over the front of it to make it look pretty, and it's got the moulded case on it instead of the kind of plasticky stand that you get with this one. But apart from that, no, there's no difference.
Yeah, so one thing that's stupid and the other thing that isn't as universal as
Yes.
Right, okay. Well, I still think that's a pretty good deal. It's on Amazon Choice and it's
Yeah,
£99.
definitely. That's a really good saving. If I didn't already have two, I'd get another one. Right, this is the one that I was talking about earlier, the Anker Portable Power Station 521, which I asked Steve how much milliamp hours it is, and he said it's about 50,000 milliamp hours. So it's got one 3-pin plug in it, 5 ports otherwise, 60-watt USB-C power delivery output, a Life 4 battery, whatever that means, and an LED light for camping. It's 87 quid off, and it's now 242 quid. Expensive. You can get a 50,000 milliamp hour box to much cheaper than that to do the same job, but this kind of lets you plug your fridge in and stuff, because it's got more ports and more sockets. Which you and I were wowing about these things years ago, and I don't think either of us ever got one, start or finish. But yeah, it's a bit of a saving, 27%.
It is, but I'm going to steal your thunder a little bit as well, because it's worth mentioning that the PowerHouse 2 is reduced as well by 30%, from £400 down to £279, which is it's the PowerHouse 2 400, 300 watts.
Oh, here we go again. How many milliamp hours is it?
29. I don't know. It's an amount that is more than 29.
Yeah, it's like, well, the other one's 50,000. So I don't know. I don't know what the formula is. Anyway, do carry on.
That'll do. There's the Jackery as well, which is they're the ones that Steve bought, isn't it? He bought the Jackery ones.
But he reckons those ones are the best ones.
Okay, all right.
Well, I like the Anker ones myself. Anyway, there you go. 2 little bargains.
A good way to measure these would be, if you threw them at people, how many people would they take out?
Yeah, good idea.
At a crowd of women, if you threw one, men possibly, but they'll be a bit more sturdy, I would like to think. So if you threw them at a crowd of women, pregnant women, how many would it take out? Asthmatic pregnant women.
With only one leg each.
Yes, and nasty unpolished plywood teeth.
So I don't know. Yes, so I don't know how many milliamp hours it is, but it's probably similar to the other one. So probably 50,000. I don't know. Carry on.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, we'll move back to Google here, because I did mention the Pixel 7 and the Pixel 7 Pro earlier in the show. And they're currently doing a little bit of a deal on it over on Google's store. Now, I've already been through this and measured up the idea of just how cheap it would be. Now, the Pixel 7, I did it with the Pixel 7 Pro because I'm just interested in the Pixel 7 Pro. It costs more than the Pixel 7.
Well done.
It's like 800 quid or something.
850, isn't it?
I'm just waiting for... Oh, there it is now. 849, right? So what I did was I put in the Pixel 7 Pro plus a trade-in of my current Pixel 6 Pro, and added on the free Google Pixel Watch, which costs £339. So you add those together, and it adds up to a whole £1,188. But you're getting that Pixel Watch for free, so that deducts £339 off that, down to £849. Now, the trade-in they offered me on the Pixel 6 Pro was £320. Which is quite good. It's not enough to make me actually want to do the deal, because I'm quite happy with my Pixel 6 Pro. But the total trade-in after the trade-in meant that I could get the Pixel 6 Pro 128 gig version plus the Pixel Watch for £529, and that is incredibly good value for money. Plus, if you are in Google's Google One membership, you get 10% off, and they take the 10% off the estimated total after the deduction of the Pixel Watch, but before the trade-in value. So it's £849. So you get the 10% off that, which is £84.90. Then that comes off the 529 taking it down to 450 odd quid, which is great value for money.
Except that you could probably sell your Pixel 6 Pro for more, couldn't you?
You might be able to, but I don't know that you would get that much more for it now that the Pixel 7 Pro has been announced. So it's a very tempting option.
Some of these trade-ins are actually quite good. I put my iPhone SE 2020 in against the Pixel 7, and they were offering me 250 quid. Well, the phone was only 399 to begin with, and that was like 2 years ago. So they're obviously getting on board with this trade-in thing and trying to get people to do it quite heavily.
Well, I think they just take the trade-ins, give them a wee brush around and things like that, test some bits and pieces, and they could stick it out as refurbished. If they're giving me £320 for this, they can stick it out at $399 maybe as a refurbished Pixel 6 Pro, maybe even
$499. I'd probably imagine, yeah. Which means that you might be able to sell it for $499. But that was my point, really.
Possibly, yes.
But yeah, you need to analyse these deals quite closely. But I did notice that those trade-ins, they're trying to do a Samsung, you see, and an Apple, and all the big boys are getting good at this trade-in thing, and they're making it very tempting for people, as is clear from your diatribe from the last 5 minutes.
And right, okay. They are now sold out of Google Pixel Watches.
Yeah, you won't get that then.
So you can only get the Google Pixel Buds now.
599 quid or 24.96 a month for 24 months. Who are they doing that finance? Is that their own finance or is it some third party? Obsidian.
Klarna.
Is it Klarna? 128 gigabytes.
It's Klarna. Yeah, click through.
I don't like the look of them. I don't like the cut of their jib.
They're bloody everywhere, them Klarna ones. All right, what's next?
Last one for me is a little micro SD card with a big memory of 512 gigabytes, SanDisk Ultra. It is a U1 and not a U3, but even so, if you're not recording 4K video on it, that shouldn't be such a problem. If it's just for carrying data around or sticking in some other device. And it's been reduced from 95 quid to £63. I remember when this 512 gigabyte card, this very one, was like 300 quid. And it's now 60. It's how much less is that? For 400% less? No, more than that. 63 quid for 512 gigs. Amazing.
You'll have to act fast. They've only got 2 left in stock. They're selling like worm cupcakes.
I'm not surprised. That's really, really good value, isn't it? It's a Class 10 device as well. The SanDisk Ultra is the one that I do have, and it's in my phone right this minute. And it just has worked perfectly for years. I've had it for probably 5 years, probably maybe even more, and it just works brilliantly well. Anyway, that's
Careful now, don't speak too highly of it. It'll stop working
yeah,
tomorrow.
That's true. That's tempting fate. 63 quid though, amazing.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll wind it up there because that's 2 hours. Fantastic. If you want to get in touch with us, you can by emailing us at gareth@techaddicts.uk. We're also on Twitter as well, and that's techaddictsuk. I am on Twitter as well at Gareth Miles, Myles, also known as Moron of the Month. I have my GarethMiles.com. And Ted, where can they find you, and what are you known as?
I'm known as the buffoon of the North Wales coast. TedSalmon.com is where you'll find me, links to all I do, audio podcasts and MeWe groups, all linked out there, so do come and join us, and you'll find all the links in there. If you want to buy me a coffee, you can do that, and it's at paypal.me/Ted Salmon, and I'd be very grateful for that. It really is a great help. Just the odd, 2 or 3 quid, whatever you can afford, that really does help me a lot. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Please do that, folks. He does this for nothing. He has to tolerate me for nothing, which is torture for anyone. All right. Take care, folks. We'll speak to you next week, and have a nice week, I suppose.
Yes.
Bye.
Goodbye.